This episode of the HooperCast is brought to you by Letterboxd. Right now, listeners of our show have the chance to win a free 1-year pro account upgrade on Letterboxd. For those of you who don't know, Letterboxd is a social network for film lovers that allows you to track, rate, and review the films you watch. You can follow other members to get recommendations. You can publish lists of films like your top 10 for the year, and a lot more. Letterboxd is free to use. There's no subscription fee, but a pro account is going to provide you with additional features such as a customized summary of your past year's viewing. If you already have an account, then you get a 1-year extension free. So even if you're already paying for the pro account, you're thinking, oh yeah, I don't need this. I've already got it. Thanks a lot, HooperCast, for, I already re-upped my subscription. You get a year free on us. So you're included as well. If you want to enter, all you have to do is listen to our show and we will read the code word at random. Then you're going to send us an email at hoopercast@gmail.com, enter the code word in the subject line of the email, and make sure you include your Letterboxd username in the email so that we know which account to reward. If you send us the code word, but I don't know your login, we're going to move on to the next person. So make sure you send us the code word and your account username, and then you're in like Flint, my friend. The winner will be selected during the last show of each month. You can also follow our show on Letterboxd. Just search HooperCast. That's letterboxd.com, letterboxd.com, letterboxd.com. And you are damn right. And this is the HooperCast, everybody. It is I, Connor. It is he, Dustin. And it is he, Kellen. Hello, Kellen.
Hey, everybody.
Hi. Welcome back to the HooperCast, Kellen.
It's been like 4 years.
It's been a while. The last time Kellen was on, I might have been very drunk.
Not very. Well, you got more drunk as time went on.
Yeah, it was a progression.
And I'm being very good, and I'm not having a glass of scotch while doing this.
I'm not either. I gave it up pretty much that day. I was like, nope, I'm not going to drink a podcast anymore. I used to, until really recently, I used to still have like essentially like a thimble of whiskey while we did these shows.
A thimble?
Yeah, times are tough. And but now no more. It is I've considered it unprofessional in this very professional setting we work in here.
I was gonna say we're so professional.
So professional.
You can see all my I mean, you guys can't see it right now, but I'm so professional that in the background I just have stacks of bills that I haven't done anything with.
Well, the viewers can see that. Now, the viewers can see that if they're watching on YouTube, which is essentially who we're speaking to right now, the YouTube audience. There's a way to see the full episode later on Patreon. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And of course, all these episodes are on iTunes and various other podcast platforms. We'll talk about that later too. I'm just going to push that to the middle of the show. I'm going to kick the can down the road. So yeah, today we're going to talk about a handful of movies. So we're recording on a Tuesday night, and we're recording on a Tuesday night because Dustin asked if we could bump our recording night because he had a special advanced screening to Incredibles 2 and he wanted to review it for the show. And I said, that's great. That sounds like a worthy cause. Dustin, have at it.
Doesn't it?
And then I asked Dustin, today, we were about lunchtime. I was like, hey man, how's the movie? Dustin, what did you say?
I said, yeah, we didn't see it. My car broke down. So it's a long story, but essentially, so the tickets were free. And I was super, psyched for it. I was like, oh, cool. I found there were just a handful of these tickets left for the Atlanta premiere. And so, I went down, got tickets, all that stuff. And then, what ended up happening was, so I'm sitting on the couch last night with my wife right before we had to leave, and we were talking about it, and it was like, it's going to put us out really late. We both had to work early this morning, and so she was already kind of feeling like, I don't know if we need to go and do all this. Like, they're free, so you're not really out anything. And I wasn't too mad about it, because it's like, yeah, I mean, I really don't lose anything, and if anything, I just kind of save money because I don't have to drive to Atlanta and back. And so anyway, we were talking about it. I was like, yeah, but maybe we should still try to go, whatever. And this was a few hours before, and so I crank up my car because I had to go run some errands, and I crank it up and put it in reverse, and the thing starts sputtering. So like I go, and it's just like what's the name of that Hanna-Barbera the dune buggy? What's the name of that thing?
Wacky Racers.
Maybe, I don't remember.
I'm thinking of Amos Slade's truck from Fox and the Hound. That thing is always, it was like,
yes, yeah, like any number of Disney villain trucks.
They did not
Cruella
take care of
DeVille
their
has
cars
the
at all.
same
Speed
problem.
buggy. I just searched it.
Speed buggy. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So it's like Speed Buggy, or it's like Cruella DeVille's car, or the what's the name of the lady from Rescuers that has that sputtery vehicle?
Oh yeah.
It's a Disney staple. So that's how I am, and I'm like sputtering out of my driveway, and like I run the errands, and I come back, and I'm sputtering the whole way back. And
You kept driving? What is wrong?
yeah, I kept driving. I was like, I have to do these things. And so like I get home, and it was so bad that like when I parked, I could, like, I was walking, but I still felt like I was sputtering, just like walking. It was that bad. And so like, I started thinking like, okay, well, what is this? My car's had a few problems in the past. One of the things that it has had in the past is like a mass airflow sensor that went bad. And it kind of felt like that. So I was like, maybe that's what it is. But the check engine light always comes on when that happens. But the check engine light's not on. So maybe it's just like a weird misfire or something or whatever. Mm-hmm. So anyway, the point is, I went back inside. I came back. I cranked it up again. And when I did that time, then the check engine light came on. I was like, okay, I got to take this thing to AutoZone and get them to check like the code or whatever. They checked the code. It was a cylinder misfire. And like I get home, and like the whole thing, like just the whole way home is just like, and so like I get it into the garage, and my wife does have a car, but we never really drive it that far. And this would have probably been the farthest that we've ever really driven it. Like it's a fine car. It just, it shakes and has some weird things, and its check engine light is on too. So
Man.
We were kind of up a creek.
Yeah, check that
And
engine.
so I was right. So I was just like, all right. So I'm at AutoZone, and they check the thing, whatever. And I get back out to my car after I get the printout. I sit in the car, try to crank it up. Thing's dead, like will not turn on for anything. And so like what I did, because it sounded like it was dead, like the battery was dead. But that's so weird, because like if I'd left a light on or anything like that, it would have happened when I was leaving from my garage, because I drove from home to 3 minutes to get to AutoZone, and then the car was on but not cranked for the 2 minutes that it takes for them to check the computer, and somehow it drained the battery, so I jumped it off, and anyway, I ended up calling my parents, and I was like, hey, this is really weird, but like I have things I have to do. I have to go to work tomorrow, all this stuff. And I was like, can I borrow a car? Like, do you have a car I could borrow? And so anyway, I ended up borrowing one of their cars, and it was late enough that we couldn't go to the premiere and all that stuff. So anyway, the point is, I was not able to go to the movie, which sucks, but at the same time, it's fine because it comes out this weekend, and I was planning on seeing it twice anyway, because I was going to go see it this weekend with my brother, so it works out. It's all good. Unfortunately, I don't have a review for you guys, but I hear it's good. Does that count? like I checked Rotten Tomatoes, and it's pretty good, so I recommend it.
Woo!
There you
I
go.
also recommend regular maintenance on your vehicle. So my car is in the shop now, and I have no idea what's going on with it, but we'll see.
Jeez, Dustin.
I know. All I wanted was to see The Incredibles, and now I'm going to have like a several $100 bill from a car repair.
An incredibly
but
large
it would have
bill.
happened regardless of Incredibles. So, but it makes for a better story that it happened literally the night that you needed to use your car to get to Atlanta.
Exactly. So you know what? But like I said, it all works out, and like I'm not too heartbroken about it. And in fact, I'm going to see the first Incredibles. We're showing it at my theater tomorrow night, so I'm going to get my Incredibles fix tomorrow night, and then again this weekend. So
cool.
There you go. Frown upside down.
Frown upside down.
Woo!
You guys are too positive for me. I would have thrown a hissy fit that would have lasted like 3 days.
Well, we have room for hissy fits, Callan, because I've got some film news to share that I would like y'all's thoughts on while we have film news to talk about. Sometimes there isn't film news to talk about, or at least not film news that interests me.
Sure.
But we ran across a few stories since we were last doing the show, and I just wanted to get some hot takes here. Hot take number one. Well, if the thing would let's open the link. I don't know why it won't open. So here's a story off of Empire. The Suicide Squad 2 adds writers David Barkatz and Todd Stashwick. I didn't even realize they were making a sequel to Suicide Squad. Dustin, do you know that there's going to be another one of these?
Yeah, they've been talking about it for a long time.
Well, they're further down the line with it because now they got these writers.
Right.
I don't. Oh, what do you think, Dustin? I picked this story just because not because of who the writers are, but to me, I went from not knowing there was a sequel to suddenly being aware there was a sequel, and I'm angry about it.
Right. So here's what I'm going to say. So first of all, still have never seen Suicide Squad.
Me neither.
Still probably never will. I hate Jared Leto as the Joker. I haven't even seen it, but I can definitively say that. I hate pretty much every decision that movie made, and I haven't even seen it. I just can't spend my money on it. But here's the upshot, and this is weird to be like, hey, let's look on the bright side. But I'm going to do it. So first of all, I have a hard time believing that any of these projects are ever actually going to happen until filming starts. To me, all of these productions are so troubled that it's very likely that things will not happen. And if you look up someone like Jared Leto on IMDb, he's currently scheduled to be, apparently, in Suicide Squad 2, an untitled Joker and Harley Quinn project, and Gotham City Sirens, not to mention his own Joker spinoff film. So that's 4 Joker movies starring Jared Leto that are in the works. I would be surprised if one of them happened. And here's why. They are doing some massive shakeups over at DC Entertainment. First, the president stepped down the other day, which I think was more of a, hey, get out of the way kind of a thing than it was like, I'm done. I think it was them pushing her out. I believe her name was Diane Nelson, if I'm not mistaken. And so she's no longer in charge over there. Secondly, it was announced recently that Jeff Johns, who has been the creative supervisor over there, I'm not sure what his actual title was, but Jeff Johns is a long-standing DC Comics writer, really brilliant writer. He's written some really great stories. He revitalized Green Lantern in the early 2000s. Great writer. He stepped down from his position to become a creative position. So essentially he went from top brass making decisions to actually in the trenches writing movies. So he now has announced that he will be writing a Green Lantern film. So with him on board for that and that position vacant, they have filled his position with Jim Lee, who has been a long-standing artist for DC Comics and for Marvel for a while. So they seem to be putting people of people who have been working in the comics industry for a long time for DC in these positions of power over at DC Entertainment, which is great. But that's also why I feel so weird about any of these things that are being so-called announced, is because there's so much shakeup happening over there that I don't know that any of this is ever going to actually make it out of this first draft phase.
Yeah, dude, this is all a mess.
It's awful.
I was not aware I was the only person on here today who had actually seen Suicide Squad. I watched it, Dustin, because I think I was under the impression you had seen it. I feel a little betrayed. I would not have bothered. I would have, because I was in the same spot you were. I essentially knew everything about the film.
Yeah.
I knew everything about it without having to have seen it.
Right.
And I saw it. I didn't learn anything really new except that I was a sucker.
But yeah, man, like who's asking for any of these movies? Is there anybody that you've ever met that's a huge fan of Suicide Squad, or for that matter, any of these movies apart from maybe Man of Steel?
No, people are fans of Wonder Woman. I mean, that was actually a competent film.
But yeah, Wonder Woman.
That's true.
Yes, Wonder Woman.
I always forget Wonder Woman. I never classify
because it doesn't
that
even
as
feel
part of
like it's from the same ilk. It doesn't. The fact that's the same actress.
It doesn't. Yeah. It really does. It's like the only one of these films that actually feels like what a DC like movie would feel like to me.
Yeah.
Not even Justice League really feels like that. And I say not even
Justice League's awful.
Yeah, I mean, and it's Man of Steel feels like a Zack Snyder film. Justice League sort of feels like what it is, an amalgam of visions. And this Suicide Squad felt like just this dingy, like I don't even know what to call it. It just felt just JV.
Again, this is my Batman like fandom creeping in here, but like I cannot get behind a movie where the Joker is portrayed that way.
Yeah.
Like, and I hate to be one of those people because people said that about Heath Ledger until they saw the movie, and so like I did keep that in the back of my mind, like whatever.
Look, but like, do you remember Dustin? Like when he was the casting was announced for him, we were both excited. Both of us were excited for. I mean, yes. I don't know if you were excited, but we were pointing out.
No, I was.
We were pointing out things. We were like, he's the correct build. I was pointing out that. I figured he was a good vocal range for the Joker. He could go both high and low like Mark Hamill could. And he's a good actor. We'd seen him in plenty of other things. I mean, one of the last films he did before Suicide Squad was Dallas Buyers Club, so you knew that he had like the chops as an actor. For me, there were zero warning signs up. Everything that was a red flag about him being cast was purely like ad hominem, like, oh, that's Jared Leto. It's like, okay, well, he can do a good job. I mean, like, I try to give Ben Affleck the same treatment when he was cast. I gave Heath Ledger the same treatment when he was cast. Like, we just all thought, let's just wait and see what they do. And only one of those people really did a good job of the three I just mentioned. And he's dead. So,
Yeah. No, but it's true. Like, the main thing for me, and this is part of, marketing's problem as well, but marketing can only work in so much as the film works. And so for me, like one of the main takeaways from all of the lead up to Suicide Squad was the Joker doesn't smile in anything. Like you never see him actually like smile. And that to me is like a huge red flag that you didn't understand the character. And plus if you're putting him in this world, right, where the Justice League exists, the Joker has to be so much larger than life that he's going to be able to basically stick out as like the crazy one in a room full of people wearing spandex.
Well, yes.
Right. So like to put him in like shirtless in like a crocodile like alligator skin jacket that's vaguely purple doesn't do anything, and then with the tattoos and all, which whatever, but I think it's a little on the nose, like ha 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 tattooed on your body. I don't know,
doesn't his forehead say damaged?
Yes,
it does.
Yes, it does.
And I'm just like, guys, this is too on the nose. Like, I don't understand. Like, I could see, like, maybe he has, like, the bat symbol, like, tattooed on him. Like,
or branded on him.
Yeah, or whatever. But
isn't Batman branding people? Like, in the beginning of Batman's first Superman, he's, like, going around branding people with the batarangs.
Exactly. But I just don't see, like this version of the Joker who's, like, essentially just a gangster.
Yeah.
Is what it seemed to be.
Man, the picture I'm looking at right now with him is like he's laughing before shooting a Tommy gun. He's got that stupid ass grill. He looks like, dude, okay. Every single day we get a mugshot around Mobile from someone being arrested for meth. This guy looks like he belongs amongst those meth mugs, because it's just he's just a pale faced, redneck basically with some jacked up teeth, and he loves violence.
Right. And to me, that's not the Joker.
No.
And then all the other characters too. It's like none of these are recognizable to me. Like you have Captain Boomerang.
Yeah.
And it's like, look, this is a goofy character. Like have fun with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know how he was portrayed in the film, but whatever.
Terribly.
And I'm sure it's Jai Courtney. And then,
yeah, that dude sucks.
And like Will Smith is Deadshot. It's like, okay, Deadshot I think could be a really great character, and Will Smith's obviously a great actor, but don't give him that role. Give him anything else.
Will Smith is a good actor, cast in probably one of the better roles of the film. He's just in the wrong movie. He could have carried his own movie as that character. He could have had so much more room to breathe, so much more room to showcase himself. And even Margot Robbie, who is probably cast okay as Harley Quinn, I wasn't even really that impressed, because it's just she plays it. It's such just a mixture of tone, because like you said, like the way the way they light them, the way they shoot this film. I mean, it's a David Ayer movie. It's a street crime type film. There's a little bit with the Enchanters and whatnot, but there's nothing about this that screams like this is a big movie. Like just the stakes are so low, and the characters' abilities are so low. And like you said, if you're gonna have, I keep thinking back to like that DC Universe Online trailer. Remember that trailer that was awesome and the game was terrible? They show you this great trailer of all the Justice League members, and when you play the game, you can't even be any of them. You have to be yourself. Right. Being yourself's so depressing.
Before I started at my company, they did animated sequences for that game.
For real?
I loved that trailer.
Hooper and I watched that trailer like
a lot of times. Yes,
I would watch it.
Oh, dude, it's great. And one of the cool things about it is you have all these heroes sort of mixing it up with each other, and villains in the same frame. And you even have the Joker in there, like amongst like the Green Lantern and Wonder Woman, and Lex Luthor's in there with his mech suit. And I'm just looking at this Joker, and I'm like, there's no way he would I could see him running around in the background during a bunch of chaos like that. He doesn't fit.
But if you remember in that trailer, the Joker is with Harley Quinn, and they have like this makeshift battle armor that's like really like hokey and like weird, and they have like this big bazooka or something. It's been a while since I've seen it, but they have like stuff like written on the bazooka, and it's like really like graffiti.
Yeah, it says like boom, I don't know, just really and stuff.
Goofy. Yeah. And then like the Joker like pulls the trigger, and like they both like have like wacky reactions to it. Yeah. Like I think they fall over with it,
Yeah, he fires it, and it's so explosive that it knocks him over, and it almost hits the Flash.
Yes, and to me, like that's so cool that like in amidst all the chaos, the Joker and Harley Quinn are just like causing more. Like I don't even care what we're doing at this point. Let's just do more damage. And that to me is cool. But to have the Joker just being like, you owe me money. See, man, or whatever he's doing in that movie is just weird. And then the voice that Jared Leto went with, I didn't care for. His laugh I thought was uninspired. I just thought the whole thing was dumb. And so really he's the reason I didn't see the movie. Not to mention all the junk that was going on, like, oh, he sent like dead rats to his co-stars and like whatever. And I'm just like, so I don't care.
Yeah.
Like none of this is important at all. So yeah, no, I honestly couldn't care less. But what's weirdest about this, and I don't know if you were going to talk about this, Hooper, is there is this solo Joker film coming out with Jared Leto, apparently,
yes.
Whatever, they're working on it. But there's also Martin Scorsese working on another Joker movie that is rumored to star Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker.
I believe that's Todd Phillips now.
Is it Todd Phillips? Okay.
I think it is Todd Phillips now.
I think Scorsese's producing it or something.
Wait, inside the same universe?
No.
No, and so that's the thing.
Meant to be standalone deliberately.
Exactly.
Wait, how do they do that alongside like a world-building multi-movie?
Because it'll make money.
But that's why I'm saying I don't think any of this is going to happen, and I think all this creative shakeup over at DCE is setting up for the fact that they're understanding, like, hey, either we do these standalone things or we do a world building, but we can't do both.
Yeah.
And so I think they're shifting. God. And if it were me, obviously my gut is like, break everything that Zack Snyder did. You know, unfortunately, like, I like Henry Cavill, but lose him, you know, you got to just start from the ground up. But realistically, I know they're going to keep Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman moving forward. So, and then they've got, you know, they're too far down the road on this Aquaman movie, which may do well, may not do well. I've heard good things about test screenings, but I'm not sure. The point is, you know, they've got these things that they have to do. So building back from that, I would say, okay, maybe we say something like, okay, the Wonder Woman thing, let's make them standalone now, and it's still Gal Gadot, whatever. But then, like, we're gonna do a, you know, Matt Reeves Batman trilogy that he has planned without Ben Affleck, and it's gonna be its own thing. And then when we do a Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie, which, by the way, I don't think there should be a Joker movie, period.
No,
I'm just gonna go on the record.
No, I agree.
I just don't agree with that. But like, if you do everything as a standalone, fine. Yeah. Like, and let Wonder Woman be the last vestige of what was. Yeah. And then just never mention Batman or Superman or any of those characters again. The beautiful thing about that is you can set, I think Wonder Woman 2 is going to be set in the 80s. Great. So then you can do Wonder Woman 3 set in the 90s or the early 2000s and then call it a day, and you've got your trilogy, and then you move on.
Oh, they're not going to do the 90s. They'll be criticized for copying Captain Marvel.
Well, this is true. But
not that would stop them, but, you know.
Yeah, they're criticized for so many reasons. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know what the answer is, but the truth is you can't do 4 movies starring Jared Leto and a movie starring Joaquin Phoenix playing the same character. You just can't. And likewise, I don't think the audience knows the Joker, sure. But I don't think the audience will turn out in droves to see a movie about the Joker if you don't say, oh, it's actually a Batman movie. Like, even if you're like, oh, Batman has a cameo, it's not good enough.
It's going to be so confusing because the audience is going to, like, the general audience, people who don't listen to film news and don't understand that all these films coming up are not going to honor continuity, they're going to be so confused. And they're going to wonder, like, and especially with Marvel out there kicking ass and keeping their continuity, they're going to be like, well, what the hell? Like, why don't... Yeah. What?
Well, and see, this is what I always, like, hang my hat on, right? So they're in the comics right now, I don't know if you're aware, so Batman is in the process of marrying Catwoman. Bruce Wayne marrying Selena Kyle. He proposed to her last year, and so they've been building up to the wedding. And there's this moment that I saw, you know, from the comics, where Batman's sitting on a couch with, like, Dick Grayson, and he's talking to him about, like, why Clark Kent is going to be his best man and not Dick. And so anyway, like my point is, like, that's an interesting scene, but they're not fighting crime, they're not solving a mystery. It's just like Bruce Wayne sitting around, right? And I would gladly watch a movie with stuff like that in it. But the Joker, like, I have no interest in watching him sit around if he's not actively doing something with Batman. In fact, I choose to believe that the Joker doesn't sit around. The Joker doesn't go to the grocery store. The Joker doesn't do these things, because the more of that I see, the less of the illusion there is. Yeah. And so likewise, like, if you give me a Joker story, okay, fine. But if Batman's not the antagonist, I don't care. And so you have to have Batman in that story. So then that begs the question, you have to use the Ben Affleck Batman, which, if you're trying to break away from, then you've defeated the whole purpose of everything.
It'd be really funny if specifically the things you're talking about, like, don't show him doing normal things. Just for, like, crass humor, I can see them opening on, like, Jared Leto's Joker taking a poop.
Yeah.
Like something completely humanizing, and then and then he like doesn't flush it, and then it really pisses you off.
Yes. Or yes.
And you're like, oh shit, I'm out
Harley
of here.
goes in there afterwards and goes,
out of here.
"Oh, Mr. J, what are you doing?"
I don't think your poop went down all the way, Mr. J.
I don't think your poop went down all the way, Mr. J. Harley, I don't flush.
It's a power move.
Yeah, Kellen, real quick, can I ask you, can I bring something to your attention, and then I want to hear about the movie you saw.
Tell me about
they have they've announced a Game of Thrones prequel for HBO. Did you know that?
Show?
Yes. HBO.
What?
Yes.
Wait, so is it going to be like the War of the Seven Kingdoms?
Here, according to, again, from Empire, here's the article. Last year, it emerged that there were several shows in development that were vying to become the direct successor shows to HBO and blah, 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 Game of Thrones. A number of writers have been at work on different concepts, and now one, spearheaded by the Kingsman co-writer Jane Goldman, will go at least to pilot stage. Naturally, most of the details are still under wraps, but we do know that Goldman and Thrones novelist George R.R. Martin came up with the basic story, which Goldman turned into a script. Should the show reach series stage, she'll be overseeing it. It's reportedly going to tackle the dark ancient history of Westeros, chronicling the world's descent from the golden age of heroes to its darkest hour. The official description offers the simple line, "Only one thing is for sure, from the horrifying secrets of Westeros' history to the true origin of the White Walkers, the mysteries of the East to the Starks of legend. It's not the story we think we know." I am zero interest in this. I don't know about you, Kellen.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. Go ahead. I'll just say real quick, because Dustin, I know you have no interest because you don't watch Game of Thrones. So, and I know that you're against this on principle as a hater of unnecessary prequels. But
sounds about right.
Yeah. But as someone who loves Game of Thrones, I'm not interested in seeing this story. It's the same thing with Fear the Walking Dead for me. Like when Fear the Walking Dead started popping up, I was already towards the end of The Walking Dead. I was already at the part where I was like, well, I wish it was ending. It's not. And now there's this other show and I don't care about it. And, and I tried it and I didn't like it even then. So with Game of Thrones, the final season's the final half, the series is going to end next year. And for me, it's like great because I really am enjoying Game of Thrones. I like where everything's going. I'm anticipating the final 8 episodes. And the last thing I wanted to see was something like this come out and go, we're going to keep it going. But like, at least it's not direct. But for me, it's just like, I thought HBO was above this, to be honest. Like if I'm being honest.
All right. So my initial reaction as you were telling me, because gosh, I just don't pay attention to this kind of news unless it pops up on front page of Reddit or something. But my initial reaction when you said it was going to be about the past is I was like, is it going to be about the War of the Seven Kingdoms that led to the circumstances in Game of Thrones series itself? And that's when I was like, oh, I don't care. But if they go way, way far back and they play with the mythology and stuff of the world that's been built there, you could do anything, and it doesn't really even have to have an attachment to Game of Thrones, because Game of Thrones, they're all the way that kind of fantasy, it's not high fantasy. It's kind of weird like that. Like there's dragons and stuff, but really if you plopped it into some kind of serfdom in like the Middle Ages, it would fit. I mean, there's some mysticism, but like the whole point of Song of Ice and Fire is that it's kind of taking place after this period of like magic. So that's why all these things, even in a fantasy world, are seen as legends. Like nobody believed in the White Walkers.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, stuff like that. So I don't think it needs to exist, but I also know that HBO has never had anything as huge as Game of Thrones. Like,
true.
I mean, the biggest thing they had before that was Sopranos. You gotta know they're gonna run with it.
Yeah. Oh, damn it.
So, I mean, it makes sense from a business stance, and I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I'm not super excited about it. And if there's not anything beyond that on HBO at that time worth having a subscription for, I probably won't subscribe.
Right.
But no, I'm not offended by the idea.
Okay.
That's my take.
That's a good point. That kind of gets me to rethink it a little bit. So, okay then, Kellen. At this point in the show, we're going to say goodbye to the YouTube people. So if you want to catch the rest of the show, the full audio version is on a variety of podcast distribution platforms. You can catch us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Radio Public, Pocket Casts, Castbox Breaker, and Anchor FM. Just search HooperCast on all those various things. If you want to see the rest of this video episode, you can actually get early access to it and the full video if you just go to our Patreon page and donate $1. And if you do that, you get the rest of this video episode. It's super cool. You can see me and Kellen and Dustin all coughing some more.
And drinking water.
And drinking cough syrup.
Sweet tea.
If you want to see me finish the rest of this bottle of cough syrup, donate $1. Anyway, yeah, visit our Patreon. Check out, I would say, like all the perks. We have just a couple perks, but they're cool perks and they're pretty inexpensive perks. So check out the full episode, patreon.com/HooperCast. Donate $1 for a video. Pretty soon we're going to be ramping up some audio commentaries. And I'm pretty excited about those, Dustin.
I know.
I gotta be honest, they're gonna be really fun to do. And they'll probably be really fun to listen to. So that's all gonna be at patreon.com/HooperCast. So farewell, YouTube people, and everyone else, keep listening or go to Patreon.
And as a means of saying how easy it is, I just subscribed on iTunes.
Hey.
Kellen, thank you. Yay.
I done did it. I did the thing.
Woo. All
Right.
right. Bye, YouTube people. Okay, so we're back, and Kellen, I want to hear, because you actually saw Solo, a Star Wars story, over the weekend, you said?
Yeah, note that you said actually.
Actually. So, I know you don't have much to say, but what do you have to say about this film that Dustin and I saw no interest in seeing in theaters?
I kind of got to preface it with, I feel like, as a Star Wars fan right now, there's like two camps. There's people who are oddly okay with The Last Jedi.
I don't understand it.
And then you have people like me who say the people who enjoyed The Last Jedi are odd.
And I agree.
I hated The Last Jedi. I truly despise the way that it took almost every single character. Either the new ones that were set up from Force Awakens, all the way back to characters from the original trilogy. I'm not a fan of what they did with Rey, with Finn, with Luke, with Leia. All that. And then,
not to derail you, but just as a point of proof for that. After The Force Awakens, I was like, I kind of like these characters, Rey, Finn, Poe, whatever. And then the other day I was at a store and they had like this discounted Rey figure. And I was like, oh, that'd be cool for my shelf. And then immediately in my head, I was like, oh, but I hate her now. And I did not buy it.
You played back that movie in a split second.
I did.
Like, in some weird whiplash moment, and then went like, no.
Yep, exactly. Had it been 2 years ago, I would have picked that figure up. Yeah. And I would have put it proudly on my shelf and then destroyed it.
So,
go ahead.
I mean, as I explained to you guys in that text message string that we have going on, I can't... Oh, shit. She's going to shoot a squeak toy. Hey, June, how about don't... Sorry.
I like to imagine you just farted and that's what it was.
No, it's me squeezing a stress ball because I hate the movie so much. No, so I can't talk about that movie without flying off the handle. It makes me feel like such a dramatic, turd, but I routinely say I'm not gonna talk about it. I'm not gonna talk about it, and then I find myself like yelling at people. And it's funny because I'm not like a super duper Star Wars guy. I mean, maybe that's part of the problem. Like a lot of people were talking about extended universe elements and all this other stuff, and things we haven't seen outside of Rebels and all that stuff. Things that I don't pay attention to. So I'm very much a casual Star Wars fan.
Same here.
Which on its nose or on its face would make it seem like I would be the most easily pleased by a Star Wars.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, I hated it. So I won't go into it. So that really put me off from this whole like 2 Star Wars movies a year thing.
Yeah.
Or is it?
It's for now. It's 1.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It feels like 2 though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Sure does.
So, and then with all the stuff that came out news-wise about Solo and how it changed directors, they had reshoots, rewrites, and
acting lessons
for this one. So I was like, I'm not going to see it. I don't care. I'm glad it's not performing, because by the time I got around seeing it, it had already been tanking in the box office. Yeah. So I got really bored on a Saturday night. All my plans fell through. I was just hanging out at home. I was like, you know what? Screw it. There's a Alma Draft House that opened in the Mueller neighborhood in East Austin like a year or 2 ago, and I've only ever been to see like one movie there. So I was like, let's just go have a night of it by myself. It'd be fun. Long story short, watched the movie. I went into it with the opinion that this movie doesn't need to exist and it probably sucks. And to give a short 1-sentence thing, the movie didn't need to exist and it was okay. Like, I walked out. So I like to rant and rave about stuff, but usually at the end of the day when I leave a movie, especially when I go see it at the theater where I get food and drink and some entertainment blasted out my eyeballs, if I leave a theater not feeling like I could have better spent that $10, or feeling like I'm upset that I spent $10 or $12 on it, that's my requisite for an acceptable movie and a movie that sucks. So I walked out, didn't feel bad about spending my $12, and I went home. To get into like more detail on the movie, it was there's some hokey stuff. I don't know if do you get into spoilers when you're talking about movies you just saw?
If it's in theaters, we tend to not get into spoilers unless you need to.
They do a bit of like eye rolling. What do you want? How am I going to phrase this? Stuff that didn't need to have a backstory.
Yep.
Gets a backstory, and it makes you just kind of go, oh my God, and just like, why even touch on that? Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't a whatever. I won't talk about it.
Like they show you what a scruffy looking Nerf herder actually is.
Yeah. And they explain what the Kessel. I won't get it. So there's like a lot of really fun sequences in it. It's all competently made. The what's his name? I can't remember. It's Aaron Wright.
Alden Ehrenreich, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, something like that. That guy ranges from like, he has about 2 or 3 lines in the movie where I'm like, eesh, see, that's what I would sound like delivering that line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the majority of it is really tolerable. And then at certain times, like, you really get the sense that this character isn't the Han Solo that we know, but I can see him becoming the Han Solo that we know. So he did a fine job. I was actually kind of bummed about Donald Glover's portrayal.
That's what people are saying.
Of Lando, because he felt like he was in a Halloween costume doing someone in a Halloween costume doing an impression of Lando Calrissian. He put on the accent that Lando, or that Billy D. Williams in general, he didn't play a character, he just played himself. And it felt really weird, and it could be because we all know Donald Glover by now, and all the roles that he's been doing, like on Atlanta and as Troy on Community, and even his music with Childish Gambino and everything. So it felt really weird. I wasn't the biggest fan. He was mostly there for comic relief, which I guess kind of makes sense. But so by the end of it, after some silly plot contrivances at the end that tends to happen in like all blockbuster movies, in my opinion, these days, is some stupid stuff happens that I just have to look past because movies. yeah, so I finished it up and I was like, I kind of feel bad that this movie is underperforming when The Last Jedi did so well monetarily.
Yeah.
Because this movie was a smaller story. I mean, granted, they're calling it the Star Wars sagas or whatever they call them. A Star Wars story. That's what they call it.
Yep.
So I think as Star Wars movies go forward, I'm oddly going to be way more excited about the tighter knit, less bombastic storylines. That being said, I do not give a single dang about the Boba Fett movie.
Yeah.
Nobody should give a crap about that character. He did nothing outside
He's not
of
a character.
Yeah, he's not.
Yeah, but then the people who know the old Star Wars extended universe would tell you like, no, you just don't get it. And I'm like, it wasn't in the movie, yet everybody loves this character who died like an idiot in the third movie after doing nothing. So so I won't see that one purely because I think that's just a horrible idea. The Solo was not a horrible idea. I mean, it is one of like the top 3 or 4 characters in the Star Wars, universe.
Yeah.
It makes some sense, but it's also unnecessary.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to see a Yoda origin movie because he was how old by the time the Republic was around. Right. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, I'm talking way too long about something that should have been short.
The only one of those stories that I'm interested in seeing at all is a potential Obi-Wan movie. Because everyone seems to have the same idea of what it should be, which is like, okay, so it's between episodes 3 and 4. Obi-Wan's on Tatooine or some other planet that let's just say Tatooine for the sake of it, because that's where he picked to lay low. And it's essentially a Western style, and Ewan McGregor can be back to play him to preserve continuity, and he's also the right age to come back and do it. And you can really show how Obi-Wan essentially became acclimated to Tatooine and probably saved the locals from either some local gangs or the Tusken Raiders or Sand People if you're ignorant, and essentially save the town from something. But the problem that they're having is, like you said, so Boba Fett, right? In all the novelizations and stuff, he's like this awesome badass character because the films didn't offer him any actual personality or character to match what became an iconic uniform. So they're like, all right, well, let's like really build up Boba Fett in all these books. The problem is, those books, they finally have to, Disney at least is going to have to, and Lucasfilm are going to have to face the facts that that all those novelizations, all this deep character history that they supposedly have, it's just a bunch of fan fiction for nerds. And they are finally having to go, okay, we have all this stuff, but we can't market this to a general audience. No one cares. What are we going to do? And we can't change it because then the nerds are going to get pissed off, and they're gonna firebomb the movie online. What are we going to do? And all of a sudden you realize, oh, is this perhaps a bad idea? It's going to be interesting.
So what I have heard is that Rebels apparently was one of the main vessels that Disney has been using for slowly drip feeding canonization of certain extended universe elements. Mm-hmm. So what's really funny is that they want to do this Obi-Wan movie, which, I mean, there is an unwritten period of time with him on Tatooine or doing something. But there is a very finite end of storyline. It's not a spoiler because it's been on a cartoon show from, a couple of years ago. Sure. He has a last duel with Darth Maul in the desert. Yeah. Which most people don't know that Darth Maul isn't dead after he fell cut in half into whatever the heck he fell into on Naboo. Which I think is silly, but it's now canon that Darth Maul was a crime boss who left the Sith Order and was a crime dude. Yeah. Leading a syndicate. So they have a finite ending to it, and I also, like you said, it could be a small story of him, almost like a Western. He's the Yeah, the no-name Clint Eastwood character who rolls into town, and he's not, well, he is a paragon of goodness, so that doesn't really work. But but you know that they're not going to be okay with a Star Wars movie staying on Tatooine that we've been to so many times and only having desert. Like, it's going to be bigger and it's going to be hokey. And it's
and that's the sad thing, because and maybe I'm in the minority, but I know that when George Lucas originally wrote Star Wars, he was largely inspired by Akira Kurosawa films, like Seven Samurai. And so for me, yes, there's this supernatural element to Star Wars and that whole world that's, uniquely appealing. But at the same time, what really appeals to me is the idea that this is like a real world, and that there are real people doing real things, and that the Force may influence and help, but it's the people that really, go out and do these things and actually protect other people and preserve goodness. And so for me, sorry guys, for me, I'm dying.
Vader, release him. Dustin, are you okay?
I'm dying.
Just hear a thud in silence. Sarah, help him!
Come quick! My God.
Okay. So one of the things that I love thinking about, and you mentioned like a Yoda prequel or whatever, and as dumb as that would be, I love the idea of going back in time far enough that we get to see, small stories set where Jedi are essentially samurai that are traveling around and doing, good works for people, a la Seven Samurai, where, it's just these group of guys that save this village from raiders. And so you mentioning that, on Tatooine with Obi-Wan, that's a great idea. But you're right. Like, Disney is never going to allow it to be that small and that intimate. But that's exactly what I want from it. And the Force can be a part of that. Obi-Wan is using the Force, sure. But at the end of the day, it's essentially just, a cowboy or a samurai that goes out and saves the little guy. And to me, that's infinitely more appealing than getting into another space battle with another tyrannical, empire, that has another spherical shaped, death laser.
That's even more like Nazis.
Right. And I don't know.
Sorry. So,
this podcast brought to you by bodily noises.
Yeah. So I was actually saying, like, no, they would never make a small story like that with a big franchise. Yeah. And I have to amend that. It's Disney that would never do that, because I just thought of Fox did that with Logan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which was wildly successful. Yeah. I think I haven't actually seen it. Was wildly successful with an IP that is mostly known for, blockbuster schlock.
Mm-hmm.
And they did something that was a lot more grounded, a lot more, I'd say, visceral and contemplative.
Yeah.
So it could be done and it could be successful, but like, I have no faith in Disney to do anything other than what the dollar says.
Yeah.
So I just don't ever see any smart Star Wars movie ever happening.
Right. And that's what's so sad about it. But that's, my theory is always that the reason Spider-Man was ever so, and this is going to sound like I'm talking in circles, but the reason Spider-Man was ever so successful is because it's like a real guy doing real things, struggling with real problems, and then boom, something larger than life happens, right? And so there's no reason Star Wars can't be that. It's a guy who, comes across a village that's in need, and he does something, and he has some larger than life powers, but in essence, the audience is able to relate to that way more easily, because say what you will about, whatever tyrannical governments or whatever, but it's always easier for an audience to relate to real life things like a village in trouble or being bullied than it is.
It's more human.
It is than it is to relate to space Nazis, and so for my mic just fell. I'm dying over here, guys. So for me, it's always it just feels so much easier to get an actual audience reaction if you're doing something that is intimately relatable rather than just sort of like empathetically like true. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. To play devil's advocate, though, that's never been what Star Wars is. So it's kind of a pipe dream to think that it should be something it never has been.
Right.
But I don't know. I think it's just like the older that I get. Oh gosh, jeez. The older that I get, the more that I don't care for over the top stuff.
Yes,
sure.
Usually when I want something like that, it's to please some kind of weird ape brain of mine for seeing like hyper violence, like in that new movie Upgrade or whatever.
Sure.
But I usually want to see smaller, more personal, drama based movies nowadays.
Well, and to speak to that point, I completely agree. But you mentioning ape brain reminded me immediately of Planet of the Apes. That new trilogy is essentially a small film that's a Western or whatever played out.
Which one are you talking about?
The newest
All
trilogy.
Three of them?
Yeah, the newest trilogy.
Those were amazing.
They're great, and the reason for that is it's like, okay, here's your character Caesar, and here's what he's dealing with, and it's relatable regardless of his species or whatever. And let's deal with what would it be like to try to protect your family from somebody who wishes to kill them. And so in a way, we're talking again about big, empires or whatever, big tyrannical systems of government. But at the same time, it's really personal. It's really intimate. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we have a really solid protagonist. But at the same time, I think it's that we're dealing with things that are very, intimately involved in our real daily lives. And so you're right. Star Wars has never been that. But at the same time, I would contend that what Star Wars has always been is great. But what the new films, these Disney films, are showing us is that you have to do something different with it. If you want something that the fans are actually going to like, you have to do something different with it. But you cannot betray it the way that The Last Jedi did. The Last Jedi completely betrayed everything that had come before in an effort to do something new with it. But the thing that it tried to do new was actually not new. It was just stupid.
Well, yeah, and you say that they can't, and I would say on a creative level, they can't, in quotes, can't. Without it being unsuccessful creatively, but they can, and they did, and it made buku money, so it's just going to be that.
Exactly.
Part of me is just like, you gotta not care like you care.
Yeah. No, it's true.
It's a testament to once as you get older, you start to demand more from your stories, and you start to demand the kind of maturity, and you want the maturity and the growth that you might be experiencing as a burgeoning adult to be reflected in the art you consume. So you go from only needing to see some cleavage and some explosions, to actually wanting like a transformative performance or a meaningful storyline. I've talked off mic, about, and a little bit on the mic, about how Logan really did that for me. It took a character that was a large part of my identity growing up, and it sort of brought it into like its final context for me, and how that had a profound effect on me personally, and sent me on a path to a crap load of like internal growth, like on a personal level. And it's been years since I had seen a film that did that had an effect on me, like on a personal level. And the fact that a Fox movie starring Wolverine did that was pretty.
That's actually
was insane. Like was it a testament to its quality? You know?
Well, and I would contend that's part of the reason The Last Jedi doesn't work. And not to jump on this train all of a sudden, but you have a character.
Don't start me up, man.
I know, but you have a character like Luke Skywalker, who in many ways I would argue is less mature and less grounded and, less interesting than he ever was.
Yeah.
And instead of doing something useful with him and a la Logan, and having, a character who's been beaten down and then have a story of redemption or a story of, actual heroism, you have just a sniveling coward who hides away and then comes out only to not really ever be in any real danger.
Yeah.
I just don't see any growth in that character or anything redeemable as a viewer to say, wow, like that character has changed for the better, or whatever. And maybe it's idealistic to think that The Last Jedi would have started with a Luke Skywalker who was like peak Jedi, but at the same time, he could have ended that way. I don't know. Anyway, the point is, I agree.
Yeah. Not to expand this out into story writing on a general level, but like to touch on the things that I'm looking for more in movies nowadays. And usually what explains 90% of my complaints with movies is character motivation and character motivation, like a character doing something that makes no sense with the information that they have.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then plot contrivances that only happen because one or more characters don't give each other information that they would obviously give each other in that situation.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's no excuse for them not to
Anytime
communicate
a
it.
plot is furthered because the writers decided not to make a character talk to somebody when they would be imperative to do so, drives me up a wall.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, every movie that think I've seen lately that drove me insane, and it's always fiction. I don't know why it's anyway. It comes from a character not saying something to someone.
Yeah.
And someone making a decision based on nothing.
Yeah.
And that was The Last Jedi to a T. So I don't want to talk about it, but that for me as a viewer, and I guess for my opinions on movies, on the off chance that we have overlapping viewings of stuff, which don't tend to lately. If I didn't like something, it's usually because of that.
Well, I agree, and I think as far as what I'm looking for in films, and I like to call this the Breaking Bad effect, because I didn't think about this until Breaking Bad, and it's been a little while since I've mentioned Breaking Bad on the podcast, so you can't fault me. But so here's the deal, right? Breaking Bad was a story where what the characters did mattered. And what happened in episode 2 only could have happened because the characters decided to do something in episode 1. And everything carries on because characters decided to act. And so what you have is the difference between a plot-driven story and a character-driven story. And I'm so much more involved and in a character-driven story because the character themselves they're making decisions that will affect the course of the story. A plot-driven story is, hey, you have to get this thing and go to this place. Here's your mission, go. But the character themselves did nothing to set that in motion. And that's not a bad thing, because in some cases, like Lord of the Rings, where the plot is sort of handed to Frodo, it can still work, although one could argue that Frodo actually volunteers to take the ring, so he kind of chooses that. But the point is, you have these things. Maybe The Hobbit is a better example, where Bilbo's door is marked by Gandalf, not really based on anything that Bilbo himself had done. But the point is, plot-driven and character-driven stories are two completely different experiences, and I find myself driven more by character-driven stories where the characters' decisions and choices actually matter, because that's what real life is. And only every once in a while are you personally thrown into something that you don't have control over. And I think that your decisions should matter, and a character's decisions should matter. And so in the case of something like Star Wars, this is especially true, but Star Wars is the old adage that I believe this is Shakespeare. Some men are born great, some men achieve greatness, and some men have greatness thrust upon them. This was the cornerstone of Star Wars, where some men were born great, that's Leia. Some men have greatness thrust upon them, that's Luke, and some men achieve greatness, that's Han. It's the story of characters becoming better versions of themselves, the story of characters who make something of their lives based on the fact that they themselves make choices, except for maybe in the case of Luke, who has greatness thrust upon him. But regardless, maybe I'm talking in circles again, but I think that the way that blockbusters are going is far more plot driven than character driven, and you can look at any of the Transformers movies for proof of this, where it's like, Sam, there's a thing, we have to get the thing and go to the place, but Sam didn't choose anything.
Oh no, I was going to say the far end of the spectrum, in my opinion, for plot driven is when it's not even about an interesting plot, it's about set pieces, and it's about something that a story that is built by committee and focus testing rather than an actually interesting story. They're like, we need to have this for the climax, this for the denouement and all that stuff.
Because we have to make a Lego set based on it.
And I mean, and once you have a property that's that huge, that stuff depends on it for it to be a viable platform. And so I can't fault someone making decisions in a business that's intended to make money. But really, I think what that means is that's why when I go to the movies these days, it's always smaller budget indie films. And the best movies that I've seen last year, like Lady Bird, I, Tonya, were all such smaller, more character-focused stories, and they probably were written by one or two people.
Right. And to a lesser extent, there's a version of that where instead of a committee choosing it, it's just the writer. It's just the writer sitting down and saying, oh, it would be cool if, and you can see the writer's fingerprints all over the entire movie. And that's when you get stuff like boring character motivations or nonsensical character motivations. And like you said, the plot contrivances. Why? Because the writer just needed to get this character here to do this thing, and you can see the writer's fingerprints over the whole thing. And it's no longer about the character. It's just about what the writer wanted to do on page 12.
Yeah. So that was a really long thing about Solo. That's my bad.
No, it's okay.
No, it's all good.
That's fine. We'll probably put this episode to a close now. But it seems like Dustin and I definitely didn't feel like the film was worth seeing in theaters, and so now we've spoken to someone who's seen it, and maybe
if you go into it with such low expectations like I did, it's kind of a movie that you walk out and you're like, I give that that's fine.
Yeah,
sure,
that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's say goodbye for this iteration of the HooperCast. So I just want to remind everyone real quick, the code word for the Letterboxd giveaway or the Letterboxd contest for this month is still Jitterbug. You still got time for the month of June to email us with that with Jitterbug in the subject line and with your Letterboxd username to get the 1-year free pro account upgrader extension from letterboxd.com, letterboxd.com, letterboxd.com. See you guys next week, and go see some good movies. Brr.